One of the things you don't want to do is try to put down other people. I can tell you that as somebody who reads comments on the channel, because I make majority of my videos, or I guess a good number of my videos from the comments, I think it's original content. Address the people who are watching your videos, talk with them. If they argue, put forward an argument, you put forward a refutation, or you say you agree. I think this is probably the best way to go. However, I've not come shy of a good number of comments making fun of PC gaming and calling it a stutter fest. As to what causes the stutter, we all know on the PC side that it is the developers that have not necessarily released a polished version of the game. Even games that will stutter on console, because of how similar the console platform is when it compares to the PC, because it's AMD machines, you can also already tell that the quality of the port is what's going to pretty much give you a good quality port. And stutters are as a result of issues within the programming or within the decisions made in the development of the game. For instance, Gotham Knights, when the game launched, it was stuttering. Now, the game no longer stutters. What happened? Did the engine get better? They've already stopped support of Unreal Engine 4. No stutters anymore. Sometimes there could be stutters that are caused from other implementations within the hardware itself. And apparently it seems like this is what the PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 5 Pro are facing when it comes to VRR. A very interesting, conundrum and paradigm. What's funny though, and to be honest with you, this is not something I'm sitting here celebrating. I have a PS5. What this does is, it tells me that a hardware of mine, if I wanted to use it at this perspective, has some issues. So I'm not going to sit here and try to celebrate. No. But it's interesting that this has not been addressed earlier on. However, Digital Foundry's Alex has finally come into having a conversation with it, and I was told by one of my audience members to check it out. So here we go.
Ground on PlayStation consoles.
Whoops, I did not give you audio in the beginning of that. Let's do it again.
Over the last few months, an issue has been simmering in the background on PlayStation consoles. VRR is not working apparently. Well, we've done the investigation ourselves, and specifically Oliver McKenzie is joining me here, who's done a bulk of the work. So Oliver, what is this issue with VRR on PlayStation consoles?
So when was this discovered? Let me see that subreddit post again and see if I can 1 month ago. Interesting stuff.
Yes, Alex, this has been a persistent issue that we've been getting reports of for the last few months, I would say, since about December of last year. So basically, there is a persistent stuttering problem with VRR on PS5 and PS5 Pro as documented by users, and we've been able to replicate that behavior ourselves over the past few days. So basically, the first game I tested here is Last of Us Part 2 on a Samsung QN90D. So that's a pretty decent mini LED panel. And I was actually able to replicate the issue pretty easily on PS5 Pro. So the key thing here is it doesn't usually emerge within the first 20 minutes of play. But with TLU Part 2 running at 120 Hz output with VRR in Pro mode unlocked, so with a variable frame rate there, the issue is very obvious. Now, if you look at my Last of Us Part 2 footage here, you should be able to spot a very slight stutter about every 8 seconds. And I've put a little timeline in the corner of the screen there, and every little blue marker that you see corresponds to a stutter. So hopefully you can anticipate those issues, and even over YouTube, you should hopefully be able to spot them because I think they're fairly obvious here. So it continues endlessly in this sort of periodic cycle where every 8 seconds or so, it just happens again and again and again. And it occurs curiously, almost exactly every 8 seconds. Sometimes it's exactly 8 seconds. Sometimes it's plus or minus maybe 10 or 15 frames or so at 60 FPS.
That's interesting. This is the first time I'm ever hearing of it. But they're talking about the Pro. I don't have a Pro, so I guess, there's no way I would have been able to see something like that. And if I played stuttery games and I didn't know, well, I guess good job, devs, that I didn't notice it, right? I guess.
So it can vary slightly. But those stutters are very often accompanied by a 120 Hz reading, which is the same you would get if a game fell out of the VR range completely, or is using a technique like LFC to hit 120 Hz output there. But I don't think my Samsung is reporting the refresh rate of every single frame here, because sometimes it happens when there's a stutter, sometimes it doesn't, and it's clearly not varying enough that it's showing off every single frame time. It's kind of showing off maybe 1 in every 5 frame times there, I suspect, in that panel. So The Last of Us Part 2 is actually a really great game.
Okay, so this says stutter problem explained. I guess I want, man. Okay, let's look at this and I mean, let's keep listening anyways.
Game to test out a bunch of hypotheses I had about this problem, because if I booted the game up and let it run for about 20 minutes with VRR on, but without unlocking the frame rate, the game was fine. So it was totally fine.
I see. Okay, so you can get rid of this. This is a good middle ground.
But when I had the game running unlocked and I had the issue emerge, and then I turned the FPS lock back on, it retained the stuttering behavior. So to see this issue, it looks like you really need to have that variable frame rate going on for some period there. And then after that point, you start to see the stuttering issue. I booted up Elden Ring next.
Yeah, Elden Ring will show you. You think you know stutters, don't you?
Popular game, very unlocked game to our chagrin, to see if I could replicate the issue at 60 hertz output with VRR. And it seems like if a game doesn't have explicit VRR support necessarily, but does have a generally unstable frame rate here, you should be able to see the stutter. So here I was able to see the stutter, and hopefully you see that little timeline there. About every 8 seconds, I'm seeing that stutter again. But I would also say that with some of these games, you will be able to notice slight moment-to-moment frame time variance because of VR, because you are running with an unlocked frame rate with VR. You should be able to see a little bit of frame rate perturbations, but it's those kind of clear stutters, those clear, jagged
What movie? What game is this? Is this Diablo?
Stutters, but you should be able to notice in most titles, again, recurring about every 8 seconds. So I ended up testing a ton of games here, 19 games, which is very time consuming, as you can imagine.
Is this no rest for the week? I don't know what this game is.
Wait 20 minutes, 30 minutes before you actually start testing each one, so it took me quite a while. But these are the games that seem to suffer from the issue in my experience. So you have the Last of Us titles.
Okay. It is Diablo 4. Okay. TLOU Remastered, The Last of Us Part 1, Hogwarts Legacy, Unreal Engine 4, Elden Ring, yeah, Goaty, Stuttery Goaty, Resident Evil 4, interesting, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, Spider-Man Remastered, Metaphor Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4 PlayStation games. And then third-party games. Okay.
Last Part 2, Last of Us Part 1, Diablo 4, Hogwarts Legacy, Elden Ring, Resident Evil 4, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, Marvel Spider-Man Remastered, Metaphor ReFantazio, and Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. And these games, they stutter on PS5.
He said this is not an exhaustive list, so there's possibly more games. And he's saying that it stutters both on the PS5 and the Pro.
Well in my testing, but I also did test briefly just to dispel any concerns or myths here. I did test out Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 on Series X, and it doesn't suffer from any stuttering issues. It runs perfectly fine with an unlocked frame rate in like the 60 to 80 FPS range, just like PS5, but without the stuttering problem.
You do know that this is gonna be fodder for a lot of people. I mean, I don't know, bro. You see, this is one thing about console hardware is, console hardware, console hardware, kind of leave me out of it. The only minute you saw me talk much about the PS5 Pro was when, this PlayStation 5 elitists is what I call them, tried to step to what PC had to offer from a hardware perspective. That's when I kind of went, what are y'all talking about? And so, we ran numbers and did all the comparisons and all that. And, by and large, the PC slaps the PS5 and PS5 Pro all over the place, because again, if you know what you're doing, if you know what you're talking about, if you don't even need to know what you're doing or talking about, just be guided by people who already do know, and you want to go into PC, put your budget in a box, walk into, some YouTube videos, look around. It's just more like, you're an engineer and stuff. At the same time, you're your own, sourcing team and stuff, but you shouldn't take too long, and you should be able to pull off a good gaming PC that will serve you very well. But now, look at what the Xbox Series X is showing compared to the PS5 in such games that are available on both platforms. This is interesting. This is very interesting. And again, I have to say this: if you're a PlayStation fanboy and you've argued against the Xbox console, you probably need to go delete those comments, maybe on Twitter or YouTube. This is probably a good opportunity for you to quickly hide your initial notions.
I also believe this issue, though I have not tested it out too much myself, that it should occur broadly across different panel types, different televisions, different monitors. We've personally tested it across different kinds of sets. I've tested it obviously on my QN90D, and it should occur on all kinds of different panels here. So Alex, what do you make of kind of those early excursions into this problem in those particular titles?
There's a lot to be said here. It occurs across such a breadth and variety of titles that it seems platform universal to a large degree. So it doesn't seem to be only limited to 120 hertz output necessarily.
I thought it was VRR. Okay, maybe it is VRR. Okay, I'm a little confused. Let me keep listening.
It also apparently only occurs after 20 to 30 odd minutes. And I did not run a timer to exactly see how long it takes. But usually when things creep in over a slow amount of period of time, I think about issues I've seen on PC before where there is some mismatch of refresh rates or a mismatch of an expected number over a period of time. There was a bug last year in the NVIDIA driver where VSync would be set, and over a period of, I think it was roughly 60 seconds or so, VSync would degrade to like 59 to 58 FPS after about 60 seconds or so of play. Almost like it was expecting a different refresh rate that was slowly counting down or something over time. And
Let's
I've also
skip to the unaffected games area. I'm curious.
That's correct. That's correct. There are some games that don't have the stuttering behavior, which is another kind of wrinkle in this little mix that is a little bit confusing here. But this includes some games that do have unlocked frame rates. So in my testing, I tested out a bunch of games with unlocked frame rates, and God of War Ragnarok, Gran Turismo 7, Immortals of Avium, Dragon's Dogma 2 don't appear to exhibit this issue. I did test this pretty thoroughly in these titles, and in my testing they were fine. I thought some of the issues might be related to the game engine, but it's not totally clear that it is. Like in Dragon's Dogma 2, for instance, that title has no issues, right? And that's running on RE engine.
Interesting.
But Resident Evil 4 does appear to have issues. Now I have to provide certain caveats here, and I'll provide a number of caveats. Because these problems tend to emerge over time, I was usually testing with like 30 minutes or an hour or so of the game running, sometimes longer than that, but it's possible that some of these problems may emerge in these games over even longer periods.
Man, I think this has always been a game issue. Some people are saying that it's the hardware issue. I'm not certain that it's relegated to well, okay, I'd have to take that back. Well, on the Series X, there were no stutters for Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. So, in that case, it's hard to not say it's a PlayStation 5. Like that is your only conclusion, right? So perhaps something somewhere is causing an issue with the PlayStation 5. Perhaps it's architecture and the way that it's built, perhaps its own operating system software, the way that actually works. It could be one of many things that's causing, that could be causing that.
I didn't necessarily have time to test. So based on my sample here, I think the majority of prominent games, at least with unlocked frame rates, appear to have this issue. But I would reiterate that like one thing that you can be pretty sure won't cause an issue is if a game presents a pretty consistent frame rate output. So in a game like Alan Wake 2 or the recent Assassin's Creed Shadows, or really the majority of PS5 Pro and PS5 software, you should be getting a pretty consistent 60 FPS or 120 FPS or 40 FPS or 30 FPS.
Okay, let's listen to the next part. Alex's experience.
Unlocked frame rate modes. But Alex, I think you've also tested this issue. So could you explain, were you able to replicate this issue, and kind of what was your experience with this actual stuttering behavior?
Yeah, so I'm testing the game on LG Ultra Gear 32-inch dual mode OLED 480 240 hertz
Very
monitor,
nice.
4K 1080. It's a very sweet monitor. And I was running through HDMI 2.1. One thing I was making sure, and I think we should clarify, we are not letting the console sleep or anything like that and waking from sleep.
Okay, because that could be a possible root cause.
This is just the game running. I played through the beginning of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Didn't happen in the initial area. Then I got to the second area after you kind of go picnicking with your friends by the lake. And then that's when I started noting it. It was roughly around 25 minutes into the game, I believe. And at this point in time, just spinning the camera, the frame rate was around, I turned off motion blur on purpose, it was around 60.
Okay. So there are some issues. Okay. Their conclusions, I mean, again, if I stay here, it's going to be like 40 minutes for this video.
Whether or not they can update these things.
Yeah.
So hopefully, whatever the issue is, it's actually something system-wide that can be packaged together with the PS5 system update.
Interesting. So this is a system issue.
Yeah. I hope that's not the case, and especially
with
like
the PS5 update. A driver? I'm sorry. Oh man, but I gotta laugh there because I can't hear. Sorry, those the PlayStation folk that have been telling me about drivers on PC. Well, welcome to PC because that's what you're using. You literally are just yelling at me while there's a PC inside of your house that you plug into your TV, and you're like, I just like the experience. I don't have to update drivers. Yeah, well, yeah, you act like I don't have a console. And, like, I look at those consoles, I was like, what am I updating? And I was like, oh, duh. That's when it hit me. And I was like, so a lot of this capping's been going on and no one said anything.
I mean, I was testing some games that were of an older vintage and some games that were of a newer vintage, some games that had been patched like in the past week and other games that hadn't been patched since before the PS5 Pro came out. I was observing the same issue, so hopefully it's on the kind of system library side. Hopefully it's something they can update.
Really?
But yeah, I would
So this is a systemic chronic issue then. This is insane. Wow. And no one has talked about this for a while? Nobody has seen this?
totally agree with Alex. I think this is a really big issue in affected titles. It's really bad, obtrusive, and obvious stuttering in my experience. And it kind of defeats the point of VRR. Like, the stutters are so noticeable and highly distracting, and that's the exact thing you're trying to avoid with.
Man, everybody that kept talking about how performance was A, B, C, D, E, F, G on the PS5 Pro, I get it. You know, PlayStation sold you something. They showed you some nice images. You had people hype it up. You know, you had everybody who was a content creator run out and go buy one. I tried to tell you, content creator FOMO is a thing. Content creator buys something. You think you want to live vicariously through this said content creator. You go buy it yourself. A lot of research is necessary to get to this point. I don't know how else to say it, but these consoles, you know, they really do need to just go PC so that we can change RAM and all that. You know, while these game developers can sort things out much easily, because AMD is over here making this, and then I don't know, man. It's all weird. Or the game developers just ought to go back to old school game development styles and systems that really did work at the end of the day. You know what I mean? That got stuff done, that got gaming gamed, you know, instead of all of this that we've been doing. But anyways, this video is already run too long. Talk to me in the comment section, okay? Appreciate you guys' time and audience. And yeah, this is quite surprising to me. An egg on the face of those who overly touted the PlayStation 5 Pro, though. Yeah, this is gonna be some fodder. I'm seeing it now, and I'm just like, wow, crazy. Peace out.